This is my friend Codie Sanchez. Codie used to work at Goldman Sachs, and now she owns a ton of laundromats. This is my buddy Sieva. Sieva was a startup founder, and he won Forbes 30 Under 30, but now he owns a 40-year-old pool remodeling business. And it is not just them.
Here's how you can start a vending machine business.
We're gonna show you guys how to start a coffee shop.
Here's how to find boring businesses that'll make you a millionaire.
So what's going on? Why are unsexy businesses all of a sudden so sexy? So I looked into it and found why buying boring businesses is not a new thing at all, but why the appeal right now is off the charts. But there are 3 very specific risks that we're gonna have to talk about. This video is sponsored by our friends at Brex, but more on them in a little bit. We need to turn back the clock. It's 1984, you're an MBA at Harvard University, you and a buddy dream of being entrepreneurs, but don't know what business you want to start. You meet this guy, Irv Grausbeck, a visiting professor on campus. Irv is a successful entrepreneur himself, and he tells you about this crazy idea he has called a search fund. Now you and your classmate can raise some investor money while you look for a small business to acquire, doing $1 to $5 million in profit. And then ultimately, you would step in as CEO to manage and grow the business, delivering returns to investors through distribution of profits or a sale down the road. So if this idea of entrepreneurship through acquisition has been around for literally 40 years, why is every Patagonia-wielding private equity bro salivating right now? There are 3 massive tailwinds that you need to understand. First, entrepreneurship is sexy, but venture capital is an absolute show right now. Tech founders own the media, tech founders own Capitol Hill, and tech founders, frankly, own society. Get this, in 1980, the Forbes richest list was dominated by real estate moguls, oil tycoons, and financiers. Today, it looks totally different. 9 of the top 10, shout out Buffett for defending the old guard, are exclusively tech founders. All of this to say that people want to be like Zuck, inclusive of his weird jujitsu obsession, but they don't want the risk of building Meta from scratch and actually being Zuck. Owning that dimly lit laundromat down the block gives you the freedom of entrepreneurship without the risk of high startup failure rates, VC funding drying up, and a shitty job market. Second, small businesses run our economy, but small business owners want out. Here are 2 stats that will blow your mind. Small businesses are responsible for 44% of the US economy, and small businesses are also responsible for 2/3 of net new jobs in the US. Said differently, small businesses are a big deal. 2 more stats for you. 2/3 of small business owners plan to retire in the next 2 years, and 10,000 baby boomers retire every single day. We are in the middle of a silver tsunami of small businesses closing due to retirement, and a new generation of entrepreneurs is dedicated to riding this wave. Third, the rise of sweaty influencers. Codie Sanchez racked up 500,000 views teaching her audience how an entrepreneur took a laundromat business from 0 to $3 million in revenue.
We're gonna break down their business so you can see how they did it and how we can too.
Upflip has 4.2 million views on a video explaining how a 19-year-old became a millionaire with a trucking company.
So right now our revenue a month is anywhere from 75 to 120,000 when all the trucks are running.
And Nick Huber owns the Boring Business Twitter audience with breakdowns on building a successful self-storage business. We make decisions based on what those with influence tell us. And now there are dozens of modern-day Mike Rowe's. So that's why there's all this hoopla about buying boring businesses, but before you buy that pressure washing company, you should probably understand the business model and the very real risks that no one is talking about. It's time to bring in the big guns. Walk me through the step-by-step process for buying a boring business.
Let's use a laundromat as an example. Step 1 is origination, or finding the deal. So if you want to buy a laundromat, I think the easiest way to do it is feet on pavement. You go around to laundromats in a circumference that you feel comfortable with. I usually call it about a mile, the 10-minute rule. You can get to any of your boring businesses in 10 minutes. You're gonna walk around and you're gonna do what people won't do these days and ages. You're going to reach out your hand and you're gonna shake hands with a bunch of owners. And your entire purpose is the next step, which is selling you. It's like, hey man, I love your laundromat. I come in here a lot. I'm a client. What's it like running this business? How long have you been doing it? You get to know that owner. At a certain point, if they hit your perfect seller avatar, which is they're ready to sell, they're ready to move on to their next thing, they're probably largely 65 plus, then you're gonna ask them, have you ever thought about potentially selling your laundromat? Obviously for the right price and the right terms. At which point, almost everybody's gonna go, yeah, at the right price or the right terms, I would. From there starts what's called due diligence, the process where you start to analyze what did the business make. Tax returns and P&Ls are your friend. After you do due diligence on the laundromat, you're going to need closing docs. So those are things like the letter of intent, a non-disclosure agreement, a purchase agreement. And finally, after you put those all together to determine a valuation that you feel comfortable buying for the business, typically 2 to 3x the profits of the business. And then you structure a deal. I like to structure deals with what I call self-liquidating acquisitions, which basically mean I buy a business with the future profits of the business, and the profits of the business buy the business for me. At the end of it, let's call it 90 to 120 days, you're going to take over the laundromat with the transfer period, and the owner's going to stay on for at least 90 days with you.
Sounds easy, right? Well, maybe, but there are a lot of ways that this story can break. Here are 3 risks to buying a boring business that no one tells you about. Number 1, there is no guarantee that you can find a great business to buy. Of the 250 search funds founded between 1984 and 2016, only 50% of them found a business to acquire. On top of that, you may be at a competitive disadvantage to find great businesses. If you're looking for small businesses to buy on sites like Flippa or BizBuySell, you have access to the same pool of companies that everyone else does. And if you're looking for off-market deals, what are the odds that a private equity firm hasn't already scooped up all of the highest quality targets on the market? Number 2, you're a good investor, but a horrible operator. There is a huge difference between crunching numbers in a spreadsheet and motivating employees of that commercial window cleaning business that you just bought. Just because your parents told you you were special or you were a high school valedictorian does not mean you know how to run a blue-collar business. Without humility and self-awareness of your blind spots in the business you choose to buy, you are absolute toast. Number 3, SMBs are scary in a high interest rate recessionary environment. The impact of a recession is amplified when you own a boring business. If McDonald's sees a 1 to 2% decline in profit in a down market, that number could look like 40 to 50% for the small business. Try running a boutique clothing store in your neighborhood when everyone's hoarding cash and hunkering down. Not fun. On top of that, think about the additional strain on your business when the interest rate on your bank loan isn't 5% like the good old days, but instead 15 to 20% now that borrowing costs are back to 1980s levels. Look, I'm all about new ways for people to make money, and I think buying a steady Eddie, profitable, recession-resistant mom and pop business is a great opportunity, but I also think you need to look at it with clear eyes. Entrepreneurship is hard, whether you start a business or buy a business. There are no shortcuts, and you will get smacked in the face a bunch. So do yourself a favor and make sure you're all in. Be prepared for 5+ years of really hard work. Make sure you build a business that focuses on your network, your insights, and your skills, and have the humility to know you're gonna make a bunch of mistakes and you're gonna need help from people that know way more.
I love building businesses, but I cannot stand managing finances, but they're really freaking important. So I have a secret weapon that makes managing finances so much easier. I've told dozens of my startup friends about it, and now I'm gonna let you in on the secret. It's called Brex, and it is a soup to nuts financial stack that helps startups manage their finances at every stage of growth. I love Brex because it lets me spend less time worrying about where my money is and more time growing my businesses. If you want to learn more, head to brex.com/foundersjournal. That's brex.com/foundersjournal.